Will the green belts in Solano County be affected by these changes?
They could be, they shouldn't be. So that's going to take leadership. Benicia has an urban growth boundary line. Fairfield has an urban growth boundary line. Vacaville has one. It doesn't help to continue doing sprawl development, single family units on large lots. That's not going to help our housing. What really is important for housing is to get it near transit and not to spread the development out. It makes it harder for people to get to school, to work, and shopping. So we should leave the greenbelt alone. That's why we have the urban growth boundary lines. It's an amenity that many people, generally called millennials or Gen X, are looking for these amenities. They're looking for good schools. They're looking for places to hike and bicycle. They're looking for places that have cultural activities and performances, which of course we're not doing right now, but we are building to the future. So you'll find that a lot of the amenities we are short on. We are underserved with those very amenities that the millennials are looking for. We also have an aging population in the county and in Benicia, but certainly in the county. And that aging population needs to have good transit. They need to be able to walk comfortably or exercise. Those green belts are really critical for that quality of life. So it'd be very foolish to not only build or open up the green belts, but also on the ag lands, which is a significant industry for us in the county. So the League of Women Voters have shown great leadership in protecting ag lands and certainly interested in green belts. And I would hope that they would be vigilant in making sure that the county stays away from looking at those lands.
How will cities develop the infrastructure to support these new dwelling units?
So that is a great question. And the legislature kind of responded to that with this bill that I was talking about, this bonding mechanism, and another legislation that also identifies that, for instance, you just can't put ADUs someplace where there's not adequate sewer treatment or water treatment or transit. So that's or that it could interfere with traffic. So there are some planning issues involved with that. There isn't adequate funding for doing the infrastructure, but the rule of thumb is pretty simple. Don't expand your footprint. So there are lots of opportunities to work within the existing infrastructure footprint. And that actually, you will add value to your community without adding the burden of operations and maintenance later on. A lot of decision makers often don't calculate the cost of operations and maintenance. And so it's critical for the public to understand that you have to look at that 10, 25, 50-year time frame. Can you really afford to add additional streets? Can you really afford to add additional pipelines for water and wastewater? Can you really afford to add those additional flood control projects? If one built in a more compact way within the existing footprint, then that affordability makes a whole lot of sense. City of Benicia brought in a nationally renowned planner or economist to help the community understand that principle. And it was an amazing presentation. I'd seen him because in my planning background, I'd been to conferences and things, but it was really wonderful to see my community listen to him and just be amazed by the information he provided, and therefore become more accepting of infill development and 3- and 4-story buildings. That is really critical to understand. So just do the calculations that we don't collect enough money to pay for the maintenance of roads and pipes beyond maybe about 10 years of the money that we get from new development.
what will cities choose to give up, or what could they choose to give up to get this new housing?
Well, a lot of cities overbuilt their commercial properties. They actually zoned commercial, and this is a direct result of Proposition 13. And Proposition 13 created a situation where cities couldn't afford to maintain the residential neighborhoods. So they didn't want to build them because they knew that they wouldn't get enough taxes. And it's real simple to explain. So if the cost of maintaining a street goes up because the cost of labor goes up and the cost of materials go up, but the revenue source to maintain those is frozen at a certain set rate of increase that is constantly below what the inflation rate is, you're in a hole and you just keep digging it deeper. So local governments responded by zoning lots and lots of land for commercial development and industrial, much more commercial than industrial. Well, that's because of the sales tax. We're able to collect sales tax, and that tend to track as products go up in value, the sales tax goes along with that. So that is one of the reactions to Prop 13. There's a lot of land that is zoned in commercial that is suitable for housing, compact housing, multifamily housing would be the preferred. And so that would make sense. And that is actually why SB 35 says that you can go in with multifamily housing on commercial properties. And if you meet those requirements that I outlined, you can build without going through a decision-making process. So that's one area that could be improved. And for housing, there are other opportunities that I really embrace, but I haven't quite figured out how to do this. In San Francisco and some other communities, you will see, I think Marin is a really good example, where they have a grocery store in Novato. It's a Whole Foods grocery store, and it's a 2-story grocery store if you don't count the basement parking. And people could think about that. And so that saved land for residential development. And so let's say you have a 1-story shopping complex, you could put residential development as a 2nd story. Let's say you have a mall that's not particularly successful. There are a lot of out-of-date malls. They were popular at one time, but they're not working very well now. You could go in there and take that land and reutilize it, repurpose that land with some really strong, maybe a government facility or theater. If you think in the future that we can get to theaters again, and do housing, and maybe mixed use with some shopping and some office. So there are lots and lots of good opportunities for us in Solano County, because we do have some things that were done in the 50s and 60s that could be repurposed now, that accommodate more of what people are looking for. Is you kind of drive, park once, go shopping, eat, maybe even visit friends that are living in an apartment complex. And that's, if we can help people see those potential, then I think we'll be able to accommodate a lot of the housing that we need to do.
Great. Well, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to add that we haven't touched upon that's central to this topic?
I would like to talk about good planning, and not planning that's driven by economics of development, or planning that's driven by fear of high density or fear of affordable housing. And how to get there is to engage the public. And I truly have the ultimate confidence that when you can have neighbors sit down together and recognize the needs that we have as a community, and have a facilitator, someone to kind of help us communicate a little bit better, and get information and realize that the worst thing you can do is simply say no, open up your mind and take a look at what the future can mean for us to be a richer, more cohesive community. And I love the work. I love planning. I love working with people on these issues. There can be rough times and what have you, but I have so much confidence in being able to work with people to achieve what we really need to achieve. So I would say put your faith in the planners, work with them, be there, be informed, and ask all the questions you need to ask.
Well, great. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking your time to inform the league and to be part of this. This is obviously a different time and a different way of holding meetings and getting together, but we really appreciate you sharing your insights with us in this format so that we can all, learn more about what's really affecting our county.
Well, I'm very thankful for it, and thank you so very much.